And now on to more tragic news. At a Kansas grade school, a 13-year-old female pointed her finger in the shape of a gun at 4 other students before tragically pointing her finger at herself. A school resource officer was able to apprehend the girl before things could get out of hand, where she was subsequently charged with a felony. The situation began when a friend of hers asked her if she could kill some students, who would she kill? To which she responded by pointing her finger dangerously at other students. Police said this was a threat of violence. Now, doesn't that sound insane? Doesn't it sound ridiculous when you hear it reported as if it was an actual story? I kid you not. This really happened. Kansas, 13-year-old girl who pointed finger gun. Seriously? Did you guys ever see that story about the kid who ate a Pop-Tart, but he bit it into the shape of a gun and then started pew-pewing at people? Like, welcome to the nightmare dystopia. Congratulations, you sick monsters. You have created this world where children are being arrested for making jokes. I hope this is what you all wanted, because now it's what you're gonna get. She was charged with a felony. Seriously, a felony for sitting in the classroom and pointing a finger at people and going pew pew or something like that. And then she did point her finger at herself, I kid you not. She was arrested. Wow. Let's read this story. And if we have time, I do want to go back and talk about another story that was recently as an example of how just truly insane this world has become. NBC reports a Kansas middle school girl who formed her fingers into a gun and pointed it at several of her classmates after another student asked her who she would kill was arrested and charged with a felony. Now, I can't imagine that would have some kind of long-lasting traumatic effect on a child, would you? The incident happened on September 18th at Westridge Middle School in Overland Park, about 13 miles south of Kansas City, after administrators were alerted to a potential threat made by a 13-year-old student, police said in a news release. According to the Kansas City Star, the girl was having a discussion with a classmate who asked if she could kill 5 people in the room, who would they be? The girl responded by allegedly making a finger gun and pointing it at 4 students and then pointing it at herself, the outlet reported. An Overland Park police spokesperson told NBC News in a statement Friday that an individual who felt threatened used the school's online anti-bullying app to alert administrators, who conducted an investigation and then told the school resource officer. Someone felt threatened by that. Man, I tell you what, when I was a kid, people actually got into fights. I actually got in a couple fights. You feel threatened because someone pointed their finger at you. Come on, let's stop right now. Seriously? They felt threatened because a girl pointed her finger at them. It might not even been them. Who knows who did it? That's insane. Man, but you know what? These kinds of stories, it's only going to get worse. Because I got another older story I'll show you in a second. They say that the resource officer who was employed by the city's police department interviewed both students involved, who affirmed the actions which constituted the potential threat, police said. The girl, whose identity is not being released because she is a juvenile, was then arrested. Are you kidding me? Man, remember back in the day when students would actually bring guns with them to school? Too often, there are reports of violence in schools and inevitably questions about what could or should have been done to prevent the tragedy. Threats in schools are taken very seriously and treated appropriately, police said in a release. I would not blame you if you wanted to homeschool your kids. I was actually homeschooled quite a bit. I did go to public school for most of the time. But man, I'll tell you what, if kids can't even point anymore, I can't imagine anybody wanting to have their kids in one of these schools. This is just completely insane. A spokesperson for the Johnson County District Attorney's Office said after reviewing the evidence, the girl was charged with criminal threat, which is a felony offense. She is due to appear in court next week. Have you people lost your minds? You in the Johnson County District Attorney's Office are sick. You are sick. This is disgusting. It's a 13-year-old girl. You give them a slap on the wrist. You say, seriously, calm down. Even if it should be addressed at all. You know what? You know how you address this? Hey, don't talk about killing kids in class. Anyway, kids, moving on. That's it. That's it. But you know what? Everyone's so terrified of their own shadows. This is what you get. You want to talk about what you could have done to stop this? I assure you, giving a 13-year-old girl a felony charge is not the way you do it. Now, hold on. It may be that by the time she goes to court, the judge, shocked, dismisses that and maybe reprimands the officer and the DA and says, what is this? Or maybe he says something like, we're going to dismiss the charges, but let this be a lesson. Be very careful about what you say. People are very nervous these days. Even that, in my opinion, is a bit too far, but would be at least somewhat acceptable, right? If they charged her with a very minor crime, like, how do you even charge somebody with this? This is nuts. Pointing your finger at somebody. Well, welcome to the world you helped create. Not us, not the young people, okay? But the older generation. You know what? No. I'm sorry. Yes, the millennials. Absolutely the millennials. Let's move on. Sorry, millennials. I'm one of you too. And I think millennials are messed up. John Kavanaugh, the girl's grandfather, told the Kansas City Star that he thinks the incident got completely out of hand and should have been handled in the principal's office and not with a teenager being charged with a felony. I have to agree. Poor grandpa. Kavanaugh said the 13-year-old does not have access to a gun, and I would be really confused if she did. She was just mouthing off, he said. I'm really worried about my granddaughter's future. A spokesperson for the Shawnee Mission School District told NBC News that he could not discuss the incident, but that the district was not involved in the girls being arrested. Oh, so the school is not involved. We didn't have any control over that action, David Smith said, declining to say if the school disciplined the student who began the discussion by asking the girl who she would kill. You know, there's a game kids used to play called, what is it called? Marry, Bang, Kill or something like that? Is that what it's called? Where it's like you got to pick 3 people. Who would you marry? Who would you do? And who would you kill or whatever? Kids used to play these games all the time. I mean, like, think about like a Ouija board, for instance. You're literally talking about death and dead people. There are so many instances where kids will make off-the-cuff comments or jokes. So Crowder actually did something interesting because there was a bit that I like sussed out with my friends a while ago that we wanted to film. We never did. And the idea is you see a van and there's 2 like FBI agents in the van, like with a headphone, listening to a conversation where these 3 guys are plotting some kind of attack. And they're saying horrible things about showing up to the Brooklyn Bridge and all that stuff. And then the FBI starts getting panicked and talk about weapons, what they're going to bring. And then they talk about stealing cars. And then the FBI, they're freaking out like, this is it. And so they kick the door in with guns drawn. And it's 3 like overweight dudes with pizza and Mountain Dew. And they're playing Grand Theft Auto together. That's the joke. Context matters. The joke is, this is not a threat. It's a kid making a joke. It's kids playing silly kid games. And I understand if you want to say the kids shouldn't be talking about this because of how sensitive everything's become, like I mentioned, like fine. But charging with a felony is a step up into the insanity. But I got a couple other things I want to point out. In this story, we can talk now about how we get into the sheer absurdity and oversensitivity that, you know what, man, I think we're doomed. I really do. Elderly crossing guard and Korean War veteran has guns seized after school shooting comment. What did he say? He said something about how our guard shouldn't leave their patrol because that could, open the door for a shooter. He was specifically warning, I kid you not, this is where we're at. A crossing guard, a Korean War vet, 84 years old, had the police show up unannounced, seizing his property because he was talking to a friend at a restaurant and was concerned that when their guard, the guard at the school, would like go on a smoke break or like go on a break, it could leave the door open for a potential shooting. He never said anything about him doing it. He was saying, man, somebody could go do that. We need to make sure our guard's on duty. Oh no, you can't talk about that either. We are entering snowflake world, complete snowflake world, where everybody is freaking out. And I love how they're like, there's this comment from this news article where this older woman tells her son, who's the bigger snowflake? Somebody who wants people to treat each other with respect or someone who's concerned about people not saying Merry Christmas anymore? It's like, wait, hold on. You having an opinion about whether or not we should say Happy Holidays and Merry Christmas is, I would say, sensitive to an extent. But having the police show up to seize property or arrest a 13-year-old girl is what I would call snowflake, for sure. You can criticize someone and be like, dude, chill. No, who cares about what you call a thing? Call it whatever you want. There's a big difference between being upset over something and literally sending police to an elderly man's home because he was warning about something, or charging a 13-year-old girl with a felony. But you know what? I got one more for you. Because when I was thinking about this, it reminded me of this other story from 1 month ago. 1 month ago, 6-year-old arrested, handcuffed for elementary school tantrum. Welcome to the nightmare dystopia. It's all of the dystopias brought together into one fine little melting pot. You get a little bit of 1984, a little bit of Brave New World, some Fahrenheit 451, and drop in a little bit of, I don't know, say Animal Farm. Did I say that one already? Look, Well, Animal Farm isn't necessarily dystopian, but you get the point. This is where we're at. We not only have the digital panopticon, the social media surveillance and spying and censorship. We have government seems to be on the verge of collapse. I don't even know what's going on now. You got impeachment hearings in secret. You've got, accusation, impeachment against the president. Republicans can't access information. Everything seems to be falling apart. But I'll tell you what. Think back to V for Vendetta. You ever see that movie? You want to know where it all comes down? You can have an oppressive government. In that movie, they do. And most people just keep on keeping on because you know what? I keep my head low, I'll be all right. But everything changes because a little girl is skipping down the street wearing a Guy Fawkes mask, and one of the cops takes a violent action against her. And the townspeople, they react. And they react in a way that shatters the confidence they had in that government. I'll tell you this. You want to talk about what precipitates downfall and collapse? It's not going to be Nancy Pelosi and Trump arguing and doing that meme photo in that office room. It's going to be a 13-year-old getting charged with a felony and locked up, and people losing faith in the system. It's going to be 6-year-olds getting handcuffed and arrested, and people finally saying things have gotten out of hand and this needs to stop. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m. on the main channel, youtube.com/Timcast, and I will see you all there.